In this video, I'll be sharing 6 tips for how to create hierarchy in design. Hierarchy is a key element in design, but what exactly is it? There are many definitions of hierarchy. Most refer to it as a system of organized rankings. For example, at a company, this would be the CEO at the top, managers are the mid-level, and individual contributors are at the bottom layer of the pyramid. Visual hierarchy, on the other hand, is the principle of arranging elements to show their order of importance. If everything in your design is the same size, the same weight, or the same color, then there's no clear hierarchy and nothing is important. Let's take a look at a few examples of good hierarchy. This is part of the homepage for Outlier, which is an online education company that caters to college students. The first thing you notice is this bold statement, "The future of online college is here," and a button that says "Get Started." Right away, we understand what the company does, and if we wanted to move forward, there's a clear way to get started. The next level of hierarchy is within these photo cards in the background. There are, of course, other design elements, like quotes and accolades from Time and Fast Company, but they're all secondary because it does a good job of creating good hierarchy with the headline and then with the instructor photography in the background. This is the homepage for Square. The first thing you see is the large headline, "Tools to Run Your Business Even When It's Not Business as Usual." Again, we have a clear idea what the company Square is and how they can help small businesses. But for a little more context, we have the photos underneath, which is the second thing you notice as far as hierarchy, so we can see how you interact with the Square product. For example, in that first photo, we see a customer interacting and purchasing something at a physical location. There's also a clear call to action with the Get Started button or the secondary button underneath to view all solutions. This is Squarespace's homepage. Now for this one, it's actually a little bit of a tie as to what the main hierarchy is. It's split between this image of the Squarespace software mocked up on a desktop and mobile interface, and also the main headline, "Everything you need to grow online." Together, these give you an idea of what Squarespace is. The headline on its own would be a little bit too broad, but when you pair it with the design software capabilities of Squarespace, you have a better idea that this is a tool to design and create your own website. And of course, also a clear call to action with the Get Started button. Now let's get into tips for creating visual hierarchy within your designs. The first tip is to use scale. In this example, there are 2 ways that scale is at work here to help create great hierarchy. The first is it's with the typography. A large headline, "The Funniest Collaborative Jukebox." It's not only informative, but it's also beautiful typography, simple, and to the point. The other point of scale is actually the colorful abstract background. It's large, blown up, and it's kind of like we're getting a piece into a bigger picture. Another tip is to use color. You always need to make sure that your typography is legible, that whoever is looking at your design can read it. This is where color can come into play. In this design example, we have a dark foresty green background. In order to create the right amount of contrast so that we can actually read the headline, the designer chose to use this pale skin tone color that complements the design, but is also providing a good level of contrast. It's also a selective use of color. You'll notice that there isn't that many colors in this design. There's primarily 2, and that was done on purpose. The next time you're designing, think about how you are using color and how you can create simple color palettes, even with just 2 to 3 colors, to create a dynamic design. The third tip is contrast, which piggybacks a little bit on the previous tip. There's a few ways that you can provide contrast. In this example, the designer is using color as a way to provide contrast. The design is primarily black and white, but they chose to use this bright orange-red highlight color as a background for the illustration, for the CTA button, and to highlight the words "early access" in the headline. But another way to achieve contrast would have been to use a bold font instead for early access and kept it all the same color. It would also achieve contrast. Tip number 4 is to play with alignment. In this example, you'll notice a strong use of grid. There's a 2x3 grid under popular exercises that shows a user different exercises that they can choose on, from treadmill, stretching, to yoga, and more. This helps guide the user and creates a clear level of hierarchy. Tip number 5 is to use repetition. In this example, notice how repetition is used thoughtfully. There's 5 different recipes and photos of what they look like. It's basically a repeated design, but what varies is the title and the photography of the recipe. The 6th and last tip is to use white space. Now, white space doesn't literally have to be white. It just refers to an abundance of space around a particular element. This design is a beautiful example of white space. We have a large headline with an elegant serif, including an italics in one of the words, a large floral photography element, and a black background. This design not only uses white space well, but also scale because of the large headline. You can see how when you start to stack these tips on top of each other, you can create truly dynamic designs. You don't have to use just one. In fact, I encourage you to combine a few of them to create more interesting designs. If you found this video helpful and you learned a few tips along the way to improve your designs, give it a like and subscribe for more. Also, leave a comment down below. What are your favorite ways of creating hierarchy in design? Or what would you like to learn about next when it comes to design?